This is part 8 of chapter 2, The Manipulated Mind, Denise Wynn. Sargent does not claim that every single person can be brainwashed. He excludes certain categories of the mentally ill whose emotions are so impossible to arouse, or who are so disconnected from their feelings that they cannot be brought to collapse. Such people cannot be made to abreact in hospitals, for instance. However, he does say, in connection with brainwashing, granted that the right pressure is applied in the right way and for long enough, ordinary prisoners have little chance of staving off collapse. Only the exceptional or mentally ill person is likely to resist over very long periods. Ordinary people are the way they are simply because they are sensitive to and influenced by what is going on around them. It is the lunatic who can be so impervious to suggestion. Psychological factors in the brainwashing process are not ignored by Sargent. He considers the guilt, isolation, physical weakening, etc. are all a vital part of the buildup to intolerance level. But the conversion experience itself he sees as due to the physiological events happening in the brain and inevitability of our physical makeup. He therefore offers different explanations for actions which others see as based in our emotional drives and needs as human personalities. He suggests, for instance, that one of the more horrible consequences of interrogations where the victims suddenly start to feel great affection for the interrogator who has been treating them ruthlessly is a warning sign that the ultra-paradoxical stage of abnormal brain activity may have been reached. The victim likes instead of hates his persecutor. Others, already mentioned, tend to put such seemingly contradictory behavior down to the fact that human beings need warmth and attention from at least someone, and if the interrogator is the only one around to provide it, then his will have to do. Ian Mackenzie, writing on hostage-captor relationships in the Bulletin of the British Psychological Society, thinks that Aronson's gain-loss theory may also have some bearing. The theory suggests that increases in positive, rewarding behavior from another person have more impact on someone than consistent, unvarying approval. Respect or liking has to be won. It can't be taken for granted. Therefore, when it is given in any little way, it means more, or has more immediate effect than liking that exists regardless. Sargent has been much attacked from many quarters for his firm adherence to a physiological explanation for brainwashing and sudden conversion and the kind of examples of behavior that he uses to support it. Psychologist T.H. Peer, in The Molding of Modern Man, makes a lyrical objection. He doesn't mention Sargent by name, but his approach is clearly covered by the criticism, and Battle for the Mind is listed in the bibliography. Peers said, "The inventor of the term brainwashing deserves no thanks from anyone trying to understand the techniques, some ham-handed, some astute but sporadic, and others cleverly integrated, which are given that name. The word, misleadingly descriptive, attracts those who believe that the only way to unravel the mind's workings is to grasp the activities of the brain, presumably to explain the physical events occurring when a gramophone record is played. Many lay bare the whole story of Verdi's Requiem, including his temperament and the religion which inspired him, not to mention the mental processes of the singers and the conductor." Dr. James A.C. Brown, a British psychiatrist who died in 1964, also thought that Sargent was rather short on acknowledgement that there is a man behind the brain cells. His own starting point in his Techniques of Persuasion is the belief that people's attitudes in life are not all the same strength and permanency by their very nature. Only some attitudes can be changed by other people, others never. The deep attitudes are those which develop from an early age and create a perspective on life which rarely alters. The less entrenched attitudes are those that might more correctly be called opinions, and which are much more amenable to alteration. Furthermore, what may seem to be radical changes in a person's beliefs are in fact most likely in keeping with their basic character anyway. Brown says, opinions are but briefly held and likely to reflect current public feeling. In many cases they reflect rather what the individual thinks he should feel than what in fact he does feel. They are readily changed and may be susceptible either to propaganda or to reasoned argument. Attitudes, on the other hand, are likely to be long-lived and do not necessarily reflect the feelings of the general public, although they tend to reflect those of some group with which the individual has become associated. Ordinarily, they are rooted in character traits which cause the individual to select from the flood of stimuli constantly impinging upon his senses only those which are consonant with his own deep-rooted beliefs. Although they are capable of changes which are quite real in the social sense, these changes are apt to be more apparent than profound. Thus the change from communism to fascism, or in the field of religion to Roman Catholicism, is quite real socially in that these bodies proclaim vastly different doctrines which result in entirely divergent behavior. But emotionally and from the standpoint of character, all are on the same level on the authoritarian democratic scale because all share the same attitude toward authority. Therefore, when he talks specifically about brainwashing, he says, despite their great doctrinal differences, all forms of totalism are brothers under the skin and appeal to the same type of person, and those converted by brainwashing in any final sense are converted not in spite of, but because of themselves. Brown, while acknowledging the value of Pavlov's finding about stress behavior, rejects the interpretation put on them by those keen to show that brainwashing techniques can literally reverse human behavior. He finds even Pavlov's assertions suspect in this area. For instance, is it such an inexplicable and sudden reversal of behavior for a dog which liked a laboratory assistant and then gets tormented by him in experiments to turn against him afterwards? Similarly, he finds suspect cases cited by Pavlovian disciples to prove the same things happen in humans. A woman who suddenly wants to kill the child she loves doesn't manifest such feelings out of the blue. They were there in some form all along and were kept repressed until they overflowed into consciousness, he says. And that was part 8. And we will do part 9 in the next video. We are in chapter 2. And it is a possibility that I might be able to finish up this chapter in the next video. We'll see what happens, okay? And see you there. Don't go away.